It all starts with a cover, a paw print in the snow leading up to a tall Gothic house.
Still have another procurement acceptance for that, for open source.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Victoria?
Sorry, Victoria, there's bound to be a glitch.
See, we even have one.
Oh, thank you. Suzy will be happy.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you on behalf of Suzy. I'm Victoria Rock. I am lucky to have been the editor on Open This Little Book. I'm very sorry for all of you that I'm not Suzy Lee. I know it's much more exciting to meet the artist behind a book. But Suzy lives in Seoul, Korea, and she made a trip to the United States just a couple of weeks ago to attend the National Book Festival, because they contacted her after seeing Open This Little Book and asked her to create the poster for the festival this year, which she did a new painting, but it was based on the painting at the end of this book. So she can't be here tonight. When we let Suzy know that I'd be happy to read remarks on her behalf, her very Suzy response was that she wanted me to tell you all that she was, quote, grateful to receive this honorable prize. And that was all she had to say. She said, then you tell them anything else that you think they would like to know. That is Suzy, in that it is the essence of an idea distilled, much like the images in her books. So, with your permission, I will add a few thoughts. The process of creating this book was most definitely not linear. It started with Jesse's manuscript. In the initial draft, the characters weren't animals, but people of different professions and relationships. I loved the message in that books were for everyone, but I worried that the specific nature of the various characters might add a layer of unintentional meaning. I also wanted to be sure that we found a way to highlight a really key element of the manuscript, that it wasn't simply about books. It was about the action of reading. It was about the anticipation that comes from opening a book and the unexpected things that happen when you do. That combination seemed to call for more than a standard book, not an unusual format for format's sake, but something that would truly enhance the intent and experience of the book. And as the very patient Jessie can attest, it took us quite a long time to figure out what that format should be. But once we did, we had a lovely manuscript and what we thought was a very interesting format, and all we needed was an illustrator. But who? In retrospect, it's almost as if our goal was to come up with a book for Suzy to illustrate. Suzy not only trained as a fine artist, a painter, but she also has a master's degree in the art of bookmaking itself. So she naturally came to mind as we thought about a book about books. Those of you who are familiar with her other books know how she brings her awareness of how a book is made and used into her work, not just by thinking about how her illustrations will work within the physical parameters of a book, but by actually making those elements a part of the story. If you look at her book Wave, you can see that there are really three main characters: the little girl, the wave, and the gutter of the book. It is the conceptual made accessible, and we were all extremely excited by the prospect of her bringing that to this book as well. When Suzy agreed to take on the project, she asked me to tell her about Jesse's inspiration and intent for it, as well as my thoughts about it, and so began a dialogue between author, illustrator, editor, and designer. It was Suzy who suggested that the characters could be animals. Jessie agreed, and in turn, Jessie suggested that they be not just any animals, but the animals that we regularly encounter in storybooks old and new, and thus the collaboration began. Suzy's touch in Open This Little Book is subtle. Look closely at how color is used, look at pattern on the various covers, see how the world within the book is flat before the climactic reading experience and more painterly afterwards. Look carefully at the characters. What is that white rabbit carrying? Well, a pocket watch, of course. Look again. Is he carrying that watch when he heads home? Of course he isn't. It is those tiny little details, subtle details, that really make this book, added another layer to this book. It's a book about friendship. In the end, a book that was made by deep collaboration became a book about collaboration. At Chronicle, the author, artist, editor, designer, and production manager who collaborate on a book are called the Make Team. And here I would like to acknowledge again Sarah Gillingham, the designer, and Steve Kim, the production manager, as I know Suzy would want to do. Both were an integral part of the creative process. What I loved about being part of the Make Team on this particular book was that each one of us was excited by the conceptual nature of the book, but none of us lost sight that in the end we wanted it to be a book that children would love. I have been sent videos of children reading this book, and I love seeing how delighted they are when they realize that the pages get smaller and smaller. They don't know it, but they are learning not simply about the power of story, but about the power of the physical book. I especially love that as they turn those ever smaller pages, they often lean closer and closer into the book. Those tiny pages literally draw them into the world that Jessie and Suzy have created. But along with the story and an appreciation for the book form itself, something else lingers. When Sarah first read a copy of the book to her young son, he asked her, "Who is the giant?" And before she could answer, he said, "I know, it's us." Suzy has said that what she admires in illustration are pictures that are mysterious, but that also convey the sense that the artist enjoyed creating them. I'd say she delivered on both counts, and I'd add a third thing, joyful art that makes you think. Thank you, Suzy Lee, and again, on behalf of Suzy, thank you, judges and guests, for this honorable prize.